Hello everyone, it's Matty before doing a brand new video. So today, I've been waiting a long time to do this video. I am going to be giving you every single Chris Chan troll and a little brief on them. It's going to be fun. Let me make it clear, this is according to the CWC wiki. This obviously isn't every single troll ever because there's some that come and go in a day that aren't recorded. But these are the main ones. I have 29. I feel like without further ado, let's just crack straight into this. Hang on. We better explain who Chris Chan is. He's basically the creator of Sonichu, which is a mixture of Pikachu and Sonic. He was what the internet calls a lolcow, which is just something that people poke fun of. That's it. He had a lot of trolls, and that's what we're talking about today. So I'm going to be splitting it up into 3 different sections, according to the CWC wiki. Starting off, we're going to be talking about the Miscreants. Basically, a group who were kind of a group, but kind of not a group. They're all kind of around, they're early Chris Chan sort of people. Let's get on with it. Billy Mays. You may know him as an American salesman. But, in reality, he was a Chris Chan troll. Of course not. This was just a persona taken on by one of Chris's trolls. So, during the whole BlueSpike thing, which we'll get into, don't worry, someone was able to basically blackmail Chris into making Billy Mays the mayor of cwcville, which is Chris's own personal town in his brain. You know, his own personal space. Basically, it's where all the Sonichu stuff exists in lore. It's where Sonichu lives. It's where Chris makes all of his stuff, his cards, his comics. The second he got in charge, well, it was great for the people of cwcville. He started making several reforms, including adult partying. That was one of the big ones. Pouring beer and cigarettes down the road. And you know what? He had a 99% approval rating. This was just, this was a fairly friendly troll. This is just a guy kind of infiltrating his own world and kind of, having a bit of fun with him, pretending to be the mayor, and Chris actually having to go along with it. So, unfortunately, the actual Billy Mays passed away in 2009. Since then, the troll kind of disappeared. That was basically it. But people, kind of fans, they were blaming Chris for the death. Obviously, it was just a heart attack. It was an unfortunate thing that happened to the actual Billy Mays. But Chris took a lot of the blame for this, and it was very unfortunate. Chris even erected a skyscraper in cwcville. You know, his mental brain. A few days after Billy Mays actually passed away, he'd been such a good mayor, despite being a troll, he'd been such a good mayor that a skyscraper was built. Overall, Billy Mays is not a bad troll. He's alright. We don't mind him. Next is a big one, though. We got Blanca Weiss. So, several trolls took the identity of Blanca Weiss. We had Ricky Ricardo, 123, Nurse Iki-chan, and Icarus69. These were kind of the main ones. Of course, a couple of other people took kind of the mantle, but these were the main 3. They were kind of 3 friends who just kind of threw it about. Now, the third one of them, Icarus, actually got Chris's medallion, and this was the person who chopped it up, put it in a pickle jar, and later set fire to it. The actual Chris Chan medallion, one of his most prized possessions. So Blanca White was kind of a fake sweetheart of Chris's and was able to kind of gain a lot of trust and therefore get his medallion. But aside from that, there wasn't anything too bad. They kind of just kept Chris themselves, stopped him from posting, they manipulated him, don't get me wrong, they're bad, but they kind of just kept him to themselves. Just had a bit of fun with them. Now, their group was called the Fried Chicken Trolling Crew. Quite a fun little name, but they disbanded, Fortunately, my bad. Due to internal conflicts, they just had a bit of beef and they left it as that. Now, despite kind of the medallion even being destroyed, Chris still believed that Blanca was real. This is because he believed that trolls had gone to her house, stolen her mail, and then obviously destroyed it. Which clearly was not the case, but this just goes into the fact that Chris is very ignorant. We can't ignore that, despite the bad things that these people do to him. I mean, her literal name translates to White, which, unsurprisingly, is Chris's kind of favourite type of female. Yeah. Someone else who will come up later, Lordsillynipples, also kind of pretended to be Blanca, and we will certainly get into that. Next up, BlueSpike. You guys know the story. I've already spoken about it. I'll link it somewhere. It'll be linked somewhere. But basically, it was a 13-year-old boy who posed as a girl called Julie, only to get Chris to basically perform a sex tape for this 13-year-old boy. It's very famous, probably the most infamous event of Chris's kind of trolling. Very bad, very poor. Not great. But there is a whole huge story, and it has a video all to itself. It's that big. Bryan Bash, he was one of kind of the key agents of the Miscreants. So there's a few people here who are kind of like associates in the Miscreants, but he was a main agent of the Miscreants, and His main claim to fame was two things. Firstly, during this whole Julie thing, where Chris was kind of on the phone to Julie, kind of naked, doing some crazy, crazy stuff, Bryan actually called the house, called Bob Chandler, his dad, and got him to come up. And that's when Bob walked in during this call and all hell broke loose. But Bryan also sent a bunch of boyfriend-free girls to Chris's house, if you know what I mean. Yes, he paid ladies to come to his house. Oh, Bryan. Another one we've already covered on the channel, Clyde Cash. Basically, the ringleader of the Miscreants. Probably Chris's most infamous troll. Not necessarily because he did the worst things, but he was just constantly there. He was always there. He was the ringleader. He was always kind of keeping control on other trolls, getting them to do his bidding. He was like his Lex Luthor, like big-time brainiac, the main villain of his. Emily Julia Chifflet. An actual female. I know. You didn't think you were going to see one of them today. But she basically went on an actual date with Chris Chan. And it was all kind of a setup. So she went on a date with Chris, and Chris bought his 82-year-old father, Bob. You know, interesting. Even more interesting is halfway through the date, a man in a pickle suit turned up and stole Emily away from Chris, rescued her from the clutches of the Chris Chan. This is not even a joke. This is not even something that happened. This actually happened. A man in a pickle suit came and... What? This is why I make videos on this stuff, because it's unbelievable. This isn't real. Later on, she kind of admitted to all this stuff, and turned out she'd seen Chris a lot. As in, she'd just walk down the street, say hello back, would not recognise her. Thus showing us how ignorant this man was. He wasn't aware of what was going on, really. He was quite clueless. Next up, Jack Thaddeus. Started off getting into his PSN accounts, his PlayStation accounts, kind of having a bit of troll there. However, he later bought some ad space on Chris's personal wiki. Chris made his own wiki, not the CWC wiki that I use, but back in the day, 2010, he had his own wiki, and he bought ad space and made adverts for gay rights and Mexican holidays. Now, specifically the gay rights, Chris was not impressed with. I mean, hey, listen, Chris likes his white women. We all know what Chris's views are. We all know about that. So Chris was not impressed about this at all. He later attempted to dox him, but kind of ended up doxing a completely random person. It wasn't until he claimed that this person was a communist and into BDSM that this person then turned around and was like, yeah, no, that's not me, bro. That's not me. Jimmy Hill, named after a Match of the Day presenter from the 70s. As you do. Listen here, I might be proper England, but I don't know who that is. Basically, he claimed that he was the creator of Sonichu and that he was planning to sell it all in Europe and basically make it big in Europe. He's this British guy that he made Sonichu and he was gonna sell it in Europe. Chris actually planned to sue him. Obviously, he didn't. That never happened because, you know, why would he? On one Halloween night, Jimmy's fans turned up to Chris's house, leaving a note sharing their support for Jimmy, which Chris later destroyed. So sad. Jason Kendrick Howell, also known as Liquid Snake. There's a lot of weird references to Metal Gear Solid during the Chris Chan saga. I presume it was his favourite game, surely. So he was actually the original creator of the Encyclopedia Dramatica page, which I could just spend a whole video on. It's crazy, all the Encyclopedia Dramatica stuff. Just trust me, it was kind of this slanderous, well, at the time it was slanderous. Now we know it's kind of factual, kind of some of it, but it was very slanderous towards Chris. Then, in response, Chris claimed that Howell had sex with a minor. There was a 17-year-old that Howell knew, and Chris just presumed this was his girlfriend and he'd been sleeping with her. Turns out, this was all fabricated, this was complete lies. Chris just made up the fact that this guy had slept with a minor. Chris, man. So Chris basically blamed a few of his hacks on this bloke, Howell, but, you know, very little. He didn't do too much. He kind of had a lot of bad stuff kind of pinned on him for very little reason. So here we go, a big one. The man in the pickle suit. There was a few people who claimed to be the man in the pickle suit, but the main one was called Marvin, also known as the Jew in the pickle suit. Okay, sure. So it was first created by Lordsillynipples, as we know, but Lordsillynipples was pretending to be Blanca and basically told Chris that they were actually, and I quote, a black pickle-suited transvestite. Chris then on believed that the man in the pickle suit was actually a real person. Chris, man, come on. So many claim to be the real man in the pickle suit, but the one who was kind of the most notorious was Marvin, who actually runs the CWC wiki, which is very strange because that's where I get my information. Biased? I think not. So as I said before, he rescued Emily from the date. He basically just made a few videos under the moniker The Jew in the Pickle Suit. What a guy. Liquid Chris, he weirdly gives me Paul Dano Riddler vibes. So as I've mentioned in a previous video, we've already spoken about him. He was basically a guy who impersonated Chris and was actually really funny.
So I am still not your friend, Mr. Imposter, Mr. Ian Brandon Anderson himself. You know who you are.
He didn't troll Chris to an extreme that most did. He just kind of poked to fun and had a bit of a laugh. The Liquid Chris is basically Metal Gear Solid again. You have your Solid Snake against Liquid Snake, and you have Solid Chris versus Liquid Chris. It's weird. It's weird. It's like an anti-Chris. Lordsillynipples. We've spoken about it before. Basically, didn't do much apart from the Blanca thing, claiming to be a black pickle-suited transvestite. Like you do. And was just the original creator of the Man in the Pickle Suit. Robert Simmons V, also known as Solidus Chris. Basically much like a Liquid Chris, impersonated Chris in a few videos.
Good evening, citizens of YouTube. I must be quiet because it's at night. I don't want to wake up my parents.
There's a lot of recurring impersonations of Chris I found in these trolls. So these are kind of fairly harmless, just poking a little bit of fun at him, parodying him. He actually met Chris once in a church and had a nice conversation with him and actually supported Chris for a while until he kind of realised what Chris was actually like, and then he deleted all the stuff and kept his distance since then. Shigeru Miyamoto. You may know this name as the creator of many Nintendo games such as Mario, Zelda, Star Fox. Obviously this wasn't the real Miyamoto. This troll, who actually turned out to be Clyde Cash, managed to convince Chris that Nintendo wanted to make a game on Sonichu. Okay, bit sketchy. It wasn't until the actual Nintendo sent Chris a letter saying there'd been no contact between the two that Chris actually realised it was a troll. Come on, man. Come on. Surfshack Tito. Basically, inspired by copy pasta on a Nickelodeon show. Much like Jack Thaddeus, he started off trolling Chris by kind of hacking his PlayStation accounts and kind of trolling them there, keeping them blackmailing. Long story short, Chris claimed that Tito stole Wallflower, one of Chris's sweethearts, and then Chris proceeded to drop some very intense slurs. Ones that I wouldn't dare say. We're talking hard R's. Risky stuff. Thorg, a strange man. He exposed Chris to be part of Tomboys and Tomgirls of Virginia, a website. Very interesting. Okay, this is actually quite funny. He made a slanderous billboard that basically depicted Chris in a gay bar. It was photoshopped. But, you know, Chris, he has a rocky relationship with the gays. You could say that. Chris was fuming. Chris actually managed to properly dox Thorg. Some of these kind of, when you come to the gay kind of trolls, I find them actually quite funny. Because Chris's viewpoints are clearly not very PC. And the fact he gets fuming over stuff like this it's funny. It is genuinely funny. The last of the Miscreants, Vivian Gee. She was the creator of the Sonichu audiobooks and cousin to Clyde Cash. Actually started off as a genuine friend until she realised Chris's ignorance. I wouldn't particularly describe her as a troll, but she's worth a mention. She genuinely cared about Chris and actually tried to give him advice, but for some reason he would just hear none of it. Absolutely none of it. He wouldn't talk to her, he wouldn't listen to her, even though they were supposed to be friends. It shows Chris isn't a good friend, man.
No shit.
The next category is post Bob's death. Unfortunately, Bob passed away. Chris took a bit of a hiatus, but even after, the trolls didn't stop. Thetan, once again, a genuine female. I know, Chris actually has a lot of female trolls. She basically just impersonated a few people at school, kind of trolled him in that way. Very little is known because she didn't release much of it, due to her not wanting to drag the people that she impersonated into the Chris drama, which is actually quite respectable. I mean, still trolled Chris, which is poor, but not trying to drag other people in and kind of keeping it on the low. I can have an inkling of respect for that. Catherine and Cousin Al. Oh boy, there's a whole saga about this. Basically, Catherine was one of Chris's sweethearts. Obviously not an actual sweetheart. Come on. Basically, she became Chris's girlfriend and even convinced the fans, for once, that she was actually real. Like, it was actually convincing. The trolls did a cracking job here. They met up twice, had a couple of dates, and she likes to say that Chris was no, he had some strange behaviours with girls. After their first date, Chris gave her a goodie bag full of My Little Pony stuff, and she wasn't impressed. Long story short, it was supposed to be an open relationship, and Catherine trolled Chris by basically saying she got with someone else. Chris got fuming, but actually apologised for once, which would be respectable if it happened more than once. Then who's Cousin Howell, you may ask? Basically just one of Catherine's kind of lackeys, an associate, came along on the second date to a little bowling event, even went round Chris's house with Catherine a couple of times. They kind of just chilled. You know, it just made it seem a bit more believable. Jeff/Francine. So Jeff, or his Tom girl name, is Francine. Much like Liquid Chris parodied Chris online on videos. No. He pretended to be Chris online. He wasn't in videos. His identity is still unknown. He even sold knockoff Sonichu merch. Just, you know, making a bit of money off of Chris. Great. Chris was, however, actually able to take down the store and demanded money. Never got it. Jeff ended up disappearing due to allegedly getting arrested. Ooh. Johan. My notes on this are very interesting. And I quote, former gay porn star wanted to impregnate a lesbian couple, had a sex-off with Chris, they both lost. Trust me, that's all you need to know. Jessica Quinn. Jessica Quinn was another one of Chris's sweethearts. He had an on and off relationship with him. Basically, just kind of broke his heart a bunch of times, breaking up for no reasons and getting back together, just trying to continuously troll him. The end of her story happened a lot with the Idea guys, and even they exposed her. Like, it was just a bit weird. It was just a very toxic relationship. Chris's heart got broken. Eventually, he did realise that she was a troll, and eventually was able to cut ties with her. Again, it was actually a she. Her name was actually Jessica. The final category. The cult of the Idea guys. As you know, I've spoken about before, the Idea guys were the group of guys who basically trolled Chris, like really messed with his head. They actually extorted him for money. It was actual illegal stuff happening. They were very bad. I have a whole video on it. I do recommend, because they are arguably, I'd say, top 3 in terms of like genuinely trying to do nasty stuff to him. That's with BlueSpike in second, and a certain someone yet to come in first. Next up, the Teen Troon Squad. I don't even know how to explain them. They are a gang of transgender people who bought Chris's pornographic drawings and smoked with him at their house. They were half the age of him. Their names were Lily, Eva, and Devil. They blamed a lot of their trolling on the Idea guys, because they were very prevalent at the time. They were kind of the big ones, and they were able to just kind of pirate off to them. So kind of getting away with it in that sense. They invited Chris to their house several times, even though they claimed he was creepy and a bit, quote-unquote, rapey. But no, they continued to invite him around to smoke weed. Whether he was actually creepy or whether this was just kind of a scapegoat from them, we'll never know. But you have to remember that they did continue to invite him around, so...
It's not looking good, bruv. It's not looking good.
Overall, it was just a bit dodgy. One of them was actually doxxed in the end by a few Chris fans, but the other two have still remained anonymous. Jacob Sockness. What a strange man. He wanted to become Chris's first ever male sweetheart. See, Chris had been kind of manipulated into coming out as bisexual by the Idea guys. Again, another strange thing they did with his head. Not that that's bad or anything, just manipulating someone into sexuality is very dodgy. So Jacob Sockness was much like Chris, basically from having autism all the way up to having kind of his own fantasy world where he believes he's a god. He spent a lot of time trying to get in a relationship, trying to manipulate Chris into meeting him. Luckily, Chris had, at this point, because this is 2019, 2020 sort of time, Chris actually had kind of some people behind him really trying to help him. And despite Sockness trying to meet up, these people persuaded Chris not to. Luckily, as he was genuinely an unstable person and had psychopathic tendencies. He posed a genuinely real-life threat to Chris, and this is one of the ones where trolling is kind of a lot of them are taken too far, but he would be in physical danger. No one was aware of what Jacob wanted to do with Chris once they met, or if they were ever to meet or whatever. But Jacob, he called himself the prophet of the gods of war and death, and he said that in order to stop some apocalypse or whatever, he either had to have sex with Chris or sacrifice a child. I'm not even joking. This man wasn't a troll. This man was just a very unstable human being. To say he's a troll is probably not right, I'll be honest. Again, I can make a whole video on this man. Ben Saint, honestly, just an odd guy. Like, you've heard a lot of this before. He tried to befriend Chris to kind of manipulate his comics or whatever, but even the wiki says that he was just boring and repetitive. He just a bit of a loser, really. Apparently, like, looking through it, none of it was ever funny. I can find some humour in a lot of the other trolls, like here and there. Don't get me wrong, the malicious stuff is not for me, but some of it, there's a bit of humour here and there. But this guy is just boring. Like, it's just repetitive, doing what everyone else has done. Get some new ideas, bro. Larry Vaughn, named after the mayor from the Jaws films, from the Jaws films, is also known as Lannon and Miss L. Basically convinced Chris to send some weird Twitter DMs to basically some people on Twitter, some random fans or whatever they were. And yes, I know. We've been through all this before. So let me read you a couple of the quotes that he sent. In the darkness of the world, the end of an age unknown, the two halves of Hava becometh one. Let the light divide the conquest, the receding darkly gloom. The birds in the ether and the fish in the sea rejoice with the sun. King Solomon beckons forth a fear. Again, this was just an opening message from Chris. Like, Chris was sending these weird messages, but that might be a bit creepy, a bit religious or whatever. It doesn't get much worse. Eat your sweet peanut butter as it comes out, fresh and hot. Interesting. Finally, this was part of a message. You won't need toilet paper to wipe your sweet, pretty, fat ass, as I shall eat it all. Chris, man. Oh, come on, bro. But we're talking 2021. So at this point, it's getting boring. It's getting strange. Not nice. Our final troll, you know what it is. You know what time it is. Isabella Janke. What a cretin. What a disgusting human being. Again, I've made a video on her. Just her attempts to genuinely get Chris to commit suicide are just disgusting. She's some of the reason why Chris is currently in jail. Obviously, she's not the main reason. Yes, he's done bad stuff, but she is a lot of the reason for it, and it's just, in general, a disgusting human being overall. But, yes, that was my 29 trolls. Hope you guys enjoy. If you want any more trolls, or if you want me to do a specific video on any of these people, please put it down below. This was kind of fun. And I apologise for it being a bumper video, but there is a lot of stuff to go through. So, without further ado, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please do like and subscribe. And I'll be my DB14. See ya. I just want to take a moment to thank you guys so much again. If you've reached this point in the video, or if you've watched any of the video, it genuinely means so much. This video took so long to make. Honestly, just the support and whatnot helps me make these videos, and these are the videos I love to make, so thank you. Also, as I said before, if you guys have any trolls or anyone else you want me to make a video on, let me know in the comments.